Sports for Real with Coach Hall. This is college football reviews and previews for week number 4. Today got a lot of good matchups today. Everybody's talking about Notre Dame and Ohio State. This should be a good one. But every time I get excited about seeing that matchup, it always turns into a blowout in the favor of Ohio State. Everybody's talking differently now, like this is a coming out party for Notre Dame. But besides the quarterback questions at Ohio State, I still think Ohio State's going to find a way to win this game. But there are 3 games that I want to talk about in particular. The first one is in the SEC. You got Ole Miss and Alabama. Now, when Hugh Freeze was there, he gave Alabama a couple good scares. They even knocked him off a couple times. But he's now at Auburn. Now they have Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin's an offensive genius, and he's finding devious ways to draw up plays. If you listen to what I'm saying, he's a lot like Steve Sarkisian. Just like Sarkisian was, Kiffin was also an assistant under Saban, which he kind of like resurrected both guys' careers. So now these guys are more younger and modern than Saban, and they're likely to draw up some plays that can cause Alabama some problems. So everybody thinking that Alabama is slipping a little bit, but this is a game where we finally get a chance to see what Alabama's going to do, because Ole Miss is definitely going to present a challenge for them. The second game I'm talking about, Colorado is going to Oregon. I've been waiting on this for a couple weeks now, because once I saw Colorado get by TCU, I knew they had a chance to go into Eugene at 3-0. However, I wanted them to come in there with Travis Hunter. It's unfortunate that Hunter won't be able to play for a couple weeks with that lacerated liver, but he still may get a chance to play against Oregon later on, because I think Colorado, the more they play, the stronger they're going to get, and the more they learn about themselves in the Pac-12, the more they'll be able to compete. Tonight would be a litmus test for them, because this is what they're going to be up against. And next week, they got another litmus test with USC. If they can somehow survive these 2 games with a victory, then they're probably going to coast on into the Pac-12 championship. They still got a lot of tough games to play, but they have an opportunity. But if they can get into the Pac-12 championship, that will bring on Mr. Hunter, because it's unlikely he's going to get injured again before this year is out. But today, I think that it would have been a better matchup if Hunter was there. I think Colorado's is kind of a little bit injured on the defensive side, and is hurt more on the defensive side with Hunter not being in there. And it would have been a better matchup if they could have taken away one of their best receivers. But now, I think there's going to be some holes in that defense, and Oregon should be able to score. I'm not saying that Oregon's necessarily going to win, but I think that the chances are great that Oregon wins this game. But Colorado, they will move the ball, they will score the ball, but can they keep pace with Oregon, especially since Hunter is not going to be playing today? So that's something to keep your eyes out for. And finally, tonight we have Oregon State and Washington State. Notice I've talked about 4 Pac-12 teams. So far this year, the Pac-12 has clearly been the best conference, despite what people say about the SEC. Well, you say, well, how can you say that when the SEC has been so dominant? Well, Utah is not in the SEC, and they beat Florida. Florida turned around and beat Tennessee, who's supposed to be a dominant team. And then you see all the other things that the Pac-12 is doing. So it stands to reason that right now the Pac-12 is the best conference. They're playing the best football right now. And it's ironic, as I say that, is that the 2 remaining teams that aren't leaving the Pac-12, Oregon State and Washington State, are going to play tonight. It should be some kind of celebration up there in what's it, Spokane? No, Pullman, Washington. It should be some kind of celebration tonight between these 2 programs, because I think that these are the 2 programs that are going to allow the Pac-12 to stay alive. Everybody's expecting the Pac-12 to die, but these 2 guys are looking around to try to find a way to make the conference survive. Last I heard about the Pac-12 and their devices to try to save the conference is do like they do in European soccer, have a relegation. That means you play to a certain level, and if you don't meet the cutoff, then you get relegated to another league. Well, they're talking about merging with the Mountain West and coming up with a way to have relegation. That would definitely make this conference relevant again, because everybody wants to see how that will work. And if that works there, can you see the day where the Big 10 keeps adding more teams and relegate their lower level teams to a smaller division, that'd be a way for them to get rid of teams that they don't really care for, like Rutgers. They're not going to win very many football games. Maryland they struggling to try to meet middle of the road, so they could probably get relegated every year. So that would be a great way or a testing ground to see if teams are really worthy enough to be in these super conferences. And the beauty of it all, it would make more money because people would be more interested in to see how this relegation goes. Now, what could happen with this relegation thing, it could go national. So you got all these big conferences, but if you get relegated, you go into this one super national conference where all the other teams that got relegated, they will all compete against each other. I'm just speculating, but I can't be too far off. If this relegation thing works with the Pac-12, I guarantee you people are going to be interested in it, and that's just the beginning of it, and it just opens the door for a whole lot more. So just think about the way college football changed from 1900 to 2000 and just how much it's changed from 2015 to now. So just imagine in 40 years what we're going to be looking at in college football. So again, Ole Miss, Alabama's intriguing just to see how Saban bounces back and to see what kind of team he truly has. Then you have Colorado going into Oregon. I want to see how they handle that environment. I think they'll be able to score the ball, but can they score enough to hold off Oregon, who can score the ball? It would be a much better football game, a more intriguing game if Travis Hunter was playing. But again, if Colorado can find themselves in the Pac-12 championship game, then we'll see Mr. Hunter going up against the best of the Pac-12. And finally, Oregon State and Washington State. Give a round of applause for these two programs no matter what happens, because they are trying to keep that Pac-12 alive despite the other 10 who left them and still trying to find a way to control how to handle the money moving forward, if that makes any sense at all. But this is sports for real.